I can't swear anymore. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
All right. It is Town of North Smithfield Halliwell Review Committee for August 3rd, 2023. We are now officially started at 6:53. First item on the agenda is roll call. Mr. Mayo?
Here.
Mr. Simpkins?
Here.
Ms. Chartier?
Here.
Mr. Nigerian?
Here.
And the chair is here. And next on the agenda is our ever popular public comment. So for any folks that would like to speak tonight, please feel free. All right, not hearing anything. Let's move on to the next.
Don't be hearing drills when money is on the subject.
Well, you know, I was hoping that maybe we should time this a little better so that when the concert on the gazebo lets out, we have the door open.
Yeah, right.
And maybe they'll, you know,
Exactly.
put a sign that says free beer and maybe they'll come in. Exactly. Let's see, I did not get out the meeting minutes from our last meeting,
That's
so we'll.
correct, sir.
Well, yes.
That's
Well,
stuff I did.
you know, you gave me.
I noticed it because I looked for them.
You
Going
gave me
crazy. So where the hell are the minutes?
gave
There aren't
me-
any minutes.
You gave me slack for sending them out an hour before the meeting, so I figured I'll give you plenty of
Don't
time
even
to
bother.
review them.
Move to accept. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. And, all right, then, let's see. Next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and action, BH+A update. So I want to report back to everybody that I had a phone call conversation with Joel this afternoon. He was saying that he was waiting for the wish list from the senior center that we discussed.
He needs more information. He can't do
Yes,
the thing.
yeah.
He
He
can't
needs
do
some more information from Linda, so I was going to get Linda's contact information over to him so that they can have a conversation.
Right.
I had a further conversation with Linda saying, you know, we want to make sure that the building program, that while there may be shared spaces, the seniors will likely have some of their own spaces to occupy and call home. So I also relayed that to Joel. And then the other thing that I don't think I've mentioned to many people is that back in June, I did go to one of the school committee meetings to discuss the need or lack thereof, or lack of a need for additional classroom space. Because I know we've heard at multiple meetings that, you know, oh, we need a new school, oh, we're not gonna need a new school, you know, and it was always comments not coming from someone that was either in the school administration or the school committee, so I went direct to the source and just point blank asked the question. So that meeting was back on June 20th, if you wanted to go back and review the tape for it. But the bulk of the information that I found was really important was that there seems to be a tend towards a push for universal pre-K. And that's being done on a federal and state level. So it's not really so much as a local level, but once that does get put into place, we'll likely have to accommodate that. So the superintendent said, you know, it's certainly fair to have shared space amongst that community center so that they can start to maybe plan for something like that as well. So I've relayed that information over to Joel as well to kind of throw that into our building program.
Jeff, did they say they needed additional, didn't they think they could accommodate it at NSCS?
No, NSCS, there's, the way the superintendent had explained it was that the current enrollment, they're almost at max capacity at the elementary school. And that they are seeing a bubble that may be a little bit bigger that will put the elementary school at full capacity. They have the ability to turn some of the resource rooms into classrooms. They don't like to do that because then the resource teachers have to be traveling a little bit. But they do have the ability to do that. But they have a greater ability to reallocate space in the middle school and in the high school.
And I should have asked James, if there's a pre-K program, full day pre-K or half day?
No, it would be full day.
Full day.
Yep.
I think you have half day right now.
Yes, yes, there's currently two half-day
That would
pre-Ks.
require additional, substantially additional more work.
Yep,
Now, your full day, you're gonna go from 2 to probably 5.
yeah.
So that, yeah, okay, that'll be a problem.
So Joel was looking to us for some direction on that, so my thought is, I believe right now there are at least 4 or 5 teachers per grade at the elementary school. So I was going to recommend that same space be allocated for universal pre-K. The other thing about those spaces is that, similar to what we were presented with last week, it could certainly be an add-on to whatever building we're looking at doing. It could also be, we could also certainly look at shared spaces as well. I know sometimes teachers like to have their own classrooms, but perhaps it could be a classroom that's used for pre-K during the day, and then after school lets out, teenagers from the middle school and the high school can go there for additional study courses or something like that. So there could be some overlap in that area.
I don't want to belabor this, however, I have some activity with the schools, and I've always said that the high school is totally underutilized space-wise, and if they have to go to a pre-K program, they could put it at the high school and put in a program with the seniors, juniors, helping to teach and set up whatever they call those programs now. So there are other points that they could do besides adding classrooms for just pre-K
Yep.
in another building, because the high school is totally underutilized. And that's all, I'm sorry.
Okay. Nope, that's fine. So unless anybody has any other further thoughts on,
On what?
just kind of some direction to give to Joel, if everyone's kind of in agreement with that 4 to 5 additional spaces. But he was just looking for some direction from us as the committee.
Yeah, but I think we have to be very careful so that we don't go down a road and we end up with a yo-yo demonstration in front of us and we're the yo-yo. We go up, we go down, we go up, we go down, depending on the whims of whatever political or public group is leveraging themselves. We just got, and this is again a reason why it's tangential to what you just said, but still, if we had a council liaison who sat at these meetings, we would have known about the fact that Pacheco, that Scouters Hall probably cannot be used as they initially intended for the money. Therefore, we could have started already with the investigation to say, and we've been played with many times in the past, so I think we just have to be careful. And if the school has something, then frankly, the school should make a motion to the council and say, we would like you to instruct the Halliwell committee to do this, and let them battle it out, so that if there are rooms in other buildings and all of those things, that let the two of them fight that out, debate it, argue it, and come to a resolve. And then we get direction from the council that says, please instruct your designer to make provisions for X, Y, and Z. Because otherwise, but then what I'm thinking is, it seems pretty clear that whatever the community center building is going to be phased. And phase 1 appears that we're gonna have some push to design something and get the seniors taken care of via this bond. So it would be better to just say, why don't we just focus on what we know we are needed to do? Because all along we keep saying, we're never gonna get the money. 18 million in a bond issue, whatever the total value is for the school, for the police station. And we're gonna start coming up with these grand ideas that are gonna get blown out of the water because people are gonna say, well, prioritize what you're doing. So I really think that we need to just focus purely on getting some direction as it relates to a structure. Get direction from the council. do you want us to pursue
Well, I don't,
Halliwell, I mean, for the seniors, and have the architect actively start working on that part, or do you not, you know? And then just let us continue to do whatever we're gonna do.
well, you know, I understand having the school committee have make their motions and everything, but we've also gone through Parks and Rec, the Senior Advisory Committee, and we've taken we've talked to a bunch of rec leagues, and we're all taking that as input
Yep.
to add to our mix of recommendations. So at the end of the day, we're making the recommendation to the town council. They've given us our direction to make a master plan, so we're getting all of the pieces of our master plan to put into place.
I just figured,
So-
anything to do with a public school as a design function of this
Mhm.
has more impact than, you know.
Oh, it certainly does.
Parks and Recs, or this or that. Those are nighttime activities. These are children coming to a building, so the design, I don't have to tell you, the design parameters are much different. And I just don't want us to be played with. That's
Yeah, no, and I understand, I totally understand the yo-yo effect. But, you know, again, we're still at the master plan phase, and if the need for additional space is gonna be required, then we should put that into our mix. And if it's part of as, you know, Joel showed us these options last week,
Yep.
where there's different blocks that we can build at different times, then we just have that universal pre-K block as a separate piece.
Well, then I think really what we should do, which is my opinion, is we should limit our focus on the smallest of these three, which we were all impressed with, the smallest of these three layouts, to get us close to achieving what the seniors want and what we might be able to do for this other rooms.
Well,
And then, as opposed to trying to design a 20,000 square foot building that we're gonna be told we don't have the money anyway.
well, at the same point, though, we have not received any direction about this grant. So I'm proceeding still as we don't have it. Until we get definitive direction from the council about this $4 million grant, whether it's going Halliwell or Pacheco, we need to keep moving, we want to keep our process moving
When do
forward.
you think we can get
Uh,
that resolved?
I'm gonna, at this Monday's town council meeting, that's gonna be a point of discussion. I'm gonna ask the question, whether or not they have a decision that night is another story, but it's gonna be something we'll certainly be pushing for them, to make a decision on, because that's ultimately, as we all know, gonna affect us one way or the other. It's gonna affect the multi-generational advisory committee one way or the other. So it's getting, and it's also gonna have a huge impact on how we approach this master plan. If we're gonna be pushing to get a building up and running, well, then we have to, you know, renegotiate our contract with BH+A. We also have to look at prioritizing what's going where and how where the whole building's gonna land.
Yeah, but clearly, the way the council works, all you could do, unless we're not gonna come with a motion when we don't even know if they want us to do it. So you're gonna have to go there, ask them. It'll take 2 meetings before they either
Well,
say it. So that's what I'm getting at. What are we, I hope that when you go there Monday, that we're gonna indicate that we've heard this conversation. Can you please clarify?
Great segue to the next agenda
yes,
item.
it really is. So, you know, that's one of the things, we've already gone through, I'm just gonna jump to our next agenda item for
Can I say one more thing
Sure.
on the school thing? If they need 4 or 6 classrooms, we're not gonna put 4 or 6 classrooms in this pocket. If they need a school, we're gonna put a school there, okay? We're not gonna put 4 or 6 classrooms there, so I just think we all should keep this in mind.
Because you need administrative officers.
Exactly, right, you need a lot more than just 4 or 6 classrooms, you're not gonna put them down an hour, period, that's it, so.
Okay.
Just, I mean, in my, from a common sense standpoint, you don't put 4 or 6 classrooms. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so our next item, agenda item is for discussion, consideration, and action, recommendations to town council. I put this on there for this evening because of, as Mr. Nigerian was alluding to, our yo-yo effect of, you know, when this grant for Scouters was first presented, it was thought of that the Halliwell Committee, we weren't doing our master plan, that we might be taking, that, you know, it might be good for us to be taking that on because a lot of, there's a lot of that overlap between the two projects. So one of the things that I wanted to do and bring to the council on Monday night is a recommendation of where we think that grant money should go. If we honestly and truly think, you know, and agree with Mrs. Tebow, Mr. Zelinski, and others that are out there, that that grant should be applied to Halliwell, let's just come right out and say it. You know, we make that recommendation that the town council transfer the grant monies to the Halliwell property. And then, if,
Well, no, I think you're flying into the hornet's nest unless you word that explicitly, clearly, that with the purpose of designing a first phase senior center. It would have to be an integral part of the wording, because otherwise you're just gonna get assaulted that, well, you're just looking for money, that's just a money grab, even though you know what we're intending. But you know, that kinda still, you know, we've been slapped on the hand in the past too, for being too aggressive and too assertive. So I'm wondering if we don't just go there and say, hey, we have had the town administrator and the representatives of the seniors tell us that the Scouters Hall building is not viable. It cannot be improved for the purposes the grant was intended. Is it your pleasure, is it your decision that our architect, our master planner can start to work on that using, not using some of the money we've already granted, but I think the way you approach it is gonna be, because how many times, even in the past, you've all read it, where they said they were gonna appoint a committee. Multiple times I read in the Valley Breeze, oh, we're gonna appoint a committee. They were chastised for not appointing it, and they said, oh, it's coming, it's coming. So is there, I guess there is not one, and there will not be one?
the
We
committee,
don't even know that.
the committee that they have, as Mrs. Tebow said at our last meeting, they've only had 2 meetings.
But they exist.
They exist, yeah.
So aren't they gonna take umbrage to this committee kind of swooping in and saying, well, we don't need you because,
Well,
that's what I'm afraid of.
we do have 2 additional seats, plus a council liaison seat that's wide open.
Well, I agree.
You know.
Your logic before was we absorb them, which is fine if that's the way it is, but.
I mean, the chair of the committee, on behalf of the committee, showed up and made the recommendation that the Halliwell project gets the funds, right? So we have to assume that she's speaking on behalf of the committee at that point, right?
I would agree that you had both a senior and a scout representative here, and they both felt that the $4,000 grant money should be tied into a Halliwell project to include their needs as well.
The only
I
mistake
think
we did,
that's it.
the only mistake we made is I don't think any of us categorically asked them if they had shared the same thing with the council.
I know Mrs. Tebow plans on attending Monday night's meeting, so I would assume that she would make that known at that point.
Yeah, I just think we need to be very careful, because if they interpret this as a, you know,
Our play on our part?
you know, a big surprise to them, or some sort of effort behind the scenes to tell them what to do, you know, the politics being politics, you know, you want them to be receptive of the idea. So, I mean, and I agree wholeheartedly that phase 1 of our composite building is staring us in the face. And we could easily make it a little bit bigger to incorporate a couple of the other needs, you know. But see, then it all comes back down around to the fact that 4 million ain't gonna do it. I mean, 4 million is not gonna get you.
4 plus 1.
Yeah, but 5 isn't gonna get you upgraded road,
It's gonna be a third one.
parking, the building, anything. So I'm just, we're getting to the point where people are gonna have to start acting like reality, and whether we want it or not. And we're gonna have all the naysayers saying 18 million, they're not gonna spend another penny, the taxpayers are gonna be exhausted. They're gonna say, great idea, but come back to us in 5 years. So we're facing a mountain, that's for sure. So I think if you say anything in that regard, which you should, it should be that we're only thinking a phase one, physical structure. Let them continue with our primary objective, which had always been until last meeting, the exterior upgrades. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe rather than, like Rob said, rather than framing this as a recommendation to the town council, maybe it's just, you know, starting the conversation, laying out where we stand, which is the town administrator, the representative for the, you know, multi-generational community wants to see these funds go to Halliwell. Tell the town council, we're happy to do that. We're at a great place in the project for that to happen. We're ready to, you know, incorporate this immediately in the design of what we're doing. But we need their blessing, you know, to make this happen. And, you know, there are different moving parts. There's the Scouters Hall Committee that would have to, you know, have consideration what happens with them. Do, you know, representatives from that become part of our committee? But I think that we just have to start that conversation with town council at Monday night's meeting. So maybe it's not a recommendation, maybe it's just.
And politically, I wouldn't use the word funds.
Yeah.
I would use the words improvements and upgrades. Because as soon as we start to use the word money or funds, the mind only goes in one direction. Oh, you're trying to take. We didn't say you could have it. What we're saying is, we've been told by the people who are supposed to know that the preference is, or the viability is Halliwell, not Scouters Hall.
Right.
Is that your point of view? And do you want to incorporate those members into our vacant seats? And do you want to allow our architect to use the dollar values of the grant to at least work a budget? As opposed, you know, so that we stay away from just the idea of money, because their first reaction was going to be negative.
Yeah,
But,
sure.
you know, if we walk on thin ice a little bit and use our words.
Yeah, it's framing it as putting that decision in the council's hands rather than us saying, this is what we think should happen, right? Which, when
We're
we're
saying this is
talking
what
about,
we've heard.
yeah, when you're
Well,
talking about the grant, it's
I,
kind of
I,
important to be careful.
I do like to sometimes hold their feet to the fire a little bit, because I feel that's how we've gotten some traction. You know, we've been persistent throughout this entire process, and that's how we finally got our funding for our master plan. So,
Yeah, you make a good point.
you know,
Yeah.
so there's that delicate balance of discussion and recommendations that we're having this evening too. So, I'm gonna have to rewatch the meeting tonight to make sure that I'm framing the words
No,
the
no,
correct
yes,
way.
If they hadn't attended the last meeting, and you were still gonna go to the council, just for purposes of our own, what were you gonna discuss if they had not attended the last meeting?
Well, one of the things that I was gonna discuss is the update from BH+A. Show them where we are standing today, how BH+A has been taking all of our input and been putting it into the site master plan, but also a building master plan from all the documents that we've produced in the past. Get some feedback from them as well, and then, you know, that was gonna be basically the bulk of the conversation, and then I was also going to ask this committee if it's everybody's thought, that we strongly recommend that they appoint a council liaison, because you know, the committee was made up of 9 people that include a council liaison, and I think that it would be very helpful to have that council person to be our voice at those council meetings, and then that way, if they have conversations, whether it be the police station or Pacheco or another property, that they can at least help inform our decision-making and our guidance for BH+A.
No, I agree, but I think also what that probably means is, should we give at least a recommendation of which one of these site plans we like, or just leave
No.
it wide open?
I think this is BH+A's first pass at everything.
Yeah.
So there's certainly conversation that we had last week at our meeting 2 weeks ago. There's going to continue to be more conversation. And it's going to be whittling down into, you know, one option at the end. But it's good just to see what the options are right now. And I'm not gonna ask them to pick an option, because that's not how that master planning process works. We're just gonna have a discussion and say, okay, you know, these parts from Part B work really well, and we
That's
see
what
that,
I mean.
you know.
At some point, we should.
Exactly, yeah, yeah, and we'll have those discussions and,
As soon as we start showing them things too, that becomes the canon, that's what they're gonna think we're doing, and that's what gets out in the paper. And people are gonna think there are going to be 4 new ball fields there, whatever, which is not necessarily the case.
Well,
So-
that's the problem. If we
Yeah.
put them all out there, or if we show all of these at
Yeah.
Autumn Fest or Pumpkin Fest, you know, all you're gonna do is, well, 10 like this, 15 like that.
Mhm.
And it's an à la carte, and the more options, the more people you're gonna, well, but what happened? As opposed to saying, you know, option C, we do want the basketball courts as close to the structure as possible. Or we don't need a baseball and a softball field, we either need 2 softball fields or 1. You know, those are, because if all we do, if we're just a receptacle for everybody coming and saying, well, I would like this and I would like that, now, at some point, either we're gonna just push it all up to the council and say, you decide, or we're gonna make reasoned decisions based on the input and say, all right, this is what we're thinking of this. Put it out there, and if we get 1,000 people screaming that you need a 3rd ball field, then, okay, you need a 3rd ball field.
Yeah. I think just, I mean,
it's,
it
yeah.
sounded like you had a similar feeling to me, which is we're not there just.
Yeah, it's more of the education, just to say, here's where we are, this is what you've been paying for. We actually haven't even gotten a bill from BH+A, but this is what you will be paying for at the next invoice round. And just to show progress. It's always good to, you know, keep because we don't have the council liaison, to do a continual update. And I wish I could track who watches it on YouTube with the IP addresses or something, but, you know, I don't know if the whole council.
So within the next month, do we actively look at these site plan options, or?
Yeah, I think in the conversations when Joel is here, we're gonna start to whittle down and get through these options, and then at the end of this, the goal is to have one option with the phasing and how we'll have one plan for the whole property.
But were we gonna do the Pumpkin Fest thing again? You know, Plan A, B, and C?
I mean,
It could,
Or Plan A and B?
it could be something like that, or it could just be simply an education
Yeah.
of, say, similar to what the MBRTF is gonna do with the police station. Have multiple meetings just for an education of where we have been and where we're going. And then, you know, we can certainly solicit feedback at that point. If we hear, as you said, 1,000 people say we need another ball field, then, okay, well, you know, we can make a pivot. But it's just a time to educate the public of what we've been doing and where we are.
Yeah, but to some extent, I think, even though it's always a good idea to do that, but I think they've made their premise. I mean, we have a lot of data from the survey. I don't think that data is gonna change dramatically. So I think we're at a point where we have a very good sense of what they wanted.
Mhm.
The only question, I guess, even externally on open space, we have pretty good input on what they wanted. So I just think at some point, with the overwhelming presence that we always have, and sorry for the sarcasm, but if it's that important, somebody should come on occasion and tell us if we're on the right path or we're on the wrong path. But I think there comes a point where we're just giving them information that just doesn't mean anything anymore. They're not envisioning this necessarily the same way we might be. They're gonna focus on this when they see a dollar value attached to it, and sadly, that's gonna be the controlling factor, the dollar value, which we're gonna have to substantiate and say, yeah, we do need 2 ball fields, or no, we only needed 1.
well, we got some good feedback, or BH+A got some good feedback from us on the last meeting during the site walk, right?
Yep.
We also have some updated wetland maps from the town planner, right, which could impact what BH+A might plan.
Then better or worse?
it's presented some creative challenges, let's say.
So it's not reflective on these plans?
No.
But I think with the feedback they got from us last time, with those updated maps, they could take another shot at this and, you know, do a second level sketch of what things could be, and maybe give us a couple options that we could take to council and say, we're getting a little closer, right? But I don't think that's it, because that was done without a ton of feedback from us.
Is the level one survey scheduled,
Not yet, no.
and why is that?
We're figuring out the proposal and the contractual obligations right now.
From them?
Yeah.
Because that's gonna solidify
Mm-hmm.
any ambiguity, right?
Oh, it certainly will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember talking about this a couple of years ago too. Is there a better time of year to do that survey?
Dry.
It's been real dry.
I know. You know, the summer is the time, you don't wanna do it in the dead of the winter.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I would maybe recommend that we see if we can have a little bit drier August, and maybe aim for September, October. Yeah, it's, given the conditions of this past summer, it's gonna
Yeah.
be, our lines are gonna be further than they need to be,
Yeah.
so.
If I could just add one point, in the big picture, in presenting things to the council, can't we just use the word consensus? The consensus of our committee and the Scottish committee is whatever. Because I think that, because there was consensus on everyone's part, that Scouters wasn't structurally sound enough to put a second floor on, that there were wetlands dealing with expanding the building, and it made more sense with all of the availability and the space availability in Halliwell to divert their funds, the 4 million, whatever, to the Halliwell project and making the senior and community center. I think if we use the word consensus, but I think we should spell it out, that there was consensus in this room, including the town administrator. Both the committees and the town administrator felt that the funds would be more wisely spent at Halliwell than at Pacino. That's all. I think that's the word we want to say, stress consensus.
Maybe the way to do this too, when this is presented to the council, you and Linda do it jointly. She speaks first
Yeah,
and
right,
sort of gives the
exactly.
background of where they're coming from, and then you can say, you know, based on that and the meeting that we had to discuss this, our consensus was that.
Mhm.
And his name is Roger Carden. Okay? It's not even Roger, Roger
Good old
and
Roger.
Scouts, okay? Okay?
And
So
like
we
I
had
said,
Scouts and seniors involved in the consensus.
Mm.
and like I said, at that meeting, this actually could be the impetus, the fuel we need to actually start to do something.
Right.
But I'm just fearful that we don't want to raise false expectations. 4 million isn't gonna cut it. I mean, you know,
Oh, and I've said that when it was the Scouters Hall grant. I've made that very clear at multiple council meetings, that money is only going to go so far. Just to give the council an idea of what $4 million gets you in architecture and construction right now. So I'm hoping they will certainly remember that conversation as well, because it was had at multiple points.
I mean, but depending upon the utilities that might be needed that aren't there, and depending upon design, and I mean, you'd be lucky, it would be miraculous to have a shovel in the ground in May. Would you agree? I mean, you would have to have a very productive winter
Mm-hmm.
through design, solicitation of bids, bonding, for this to even have a shovel in the ground in the early summer of next year. So we're talking almost a year and a half to 2 years before you would turn the key in the door, so to speak.
But we're still talking very theoretical at this point,
Yeah.
because the money's still that way, not
Yeah,
that
it's
way.
not in the
So.
account, yeah.
Do we know about,
Mr. Zelinski said that it was occurring in September, October this year.
Is that what the trailer, the porta potties are up there at Halliwell?
When did they get put in?
They were there?
Were they there for the community garden?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. It's up by the gymnasium. There's a tractor trailer and porta potties there now.
Oh, maybe that's for the abatement crew.
Could be the abatement.
Okay. That would make sense. It's probably all their tools.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one suggestion before the demolition, if you guys are all in this nostalgia, the walkway, you know, that last walkway that we went under, I mean, you could send a crew of volunteers or the ironworkers, disassemble 30 feet, forget about the decking, just the structural steel. It could be sandblasted and galvanized, and you could use it at the basketball court or some place where you wanted that. You could say, okay, this is the original walkway or covered walkway, as opposed to making a new one and saying, well, this looks like it. I mean, it's there. It really wouldn't take that much to disassemble, stockpile it somewhere, again, get sandblasted and galvanized later on. It's just something to think about before they go in there with the machines and just, you know,
Yeah.
destroy everything.
You know, we did have the conversation with the landscape architect on site about, you know, potentially creating some sort of folly that recreate, or looks to recreate some of those open corridors. So we can certainly have that conversation with them.
Well, I'm thinking, we don't want to have the boys go in there to rip it down and say, well, if you told us earlier, we would have been able to save it.
Yeah. I think we still have some time, though, between now and September,
I just think
October.
it might be a fun little thing. And if you don't use it, then you just throw it away when the time comes.
Jeff, I know that you said Paul communicated in September. Does Ray have a date? Ray Pendergast?
I'll certainly ask them.
He's the one in charge of this.
Yep.
And if I were in your seat, I'd check with him,
Mm-hmm.
because we've had delay after delay after delay. And then Paul says, oh yeah, I forgot, yeah, that we delayed that. Check with Ray. I
Yeah,
think
sure will.
that's the person you gotta go to. He's the source. If he's got it locked up, signed and sealed, fine. If he doesn't, there could be another 6 months delay. Now we're talking the summer of '24.
Okay. All right, so kind of want to steer us back to some recommendations to the council. No, that's fine.
You're gonna get off the course, but
Nope.
let's get facts done, locked in. Thank you.
So the first recommendation I would like to make to council is that they expedite a council liaison for us. So I'm going to make a motion that we recommend to town council that they assign a council liaison. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have multiple seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
This is thinking music.
I know, this is, I hope the folks down, that are watching for our YouTube are also enjoying the.
It is going over, but
What's the band tonight? Well, they're lovely right now.
yeah, well, I know, really.
Well, I think they're doing a cover, so I
They
think the
finished
copyright.
They finished the mellow part before we started. They said, that's the end of our mellow section.
That is, I have people that sit in this chamber, can't be heard over YouTube, but this music's being heard.
All right, so that's our first recommendation. We'll leave the recommendations for the grant monies as a discussion point for Monday night. At this point, do we feel like there are any other council recommendations that we need to make?
Well, are they gonna be presented, this document?
They'll be presented that document, but I don't think we're going to be, it's just going to, it's, again, a progress presentation, if you will, to say, here's our architect's first stab at our master plan, both site and building. And then if they have any additional feedback that they want us to take back to the, to BH+A, we can certainly do that. I know we had voiced preference over one site plan over the other, but I also know now with the wetlands setback adjustment that our town planner put together loosely, there's probably gonna, Joel had said that there's gonna be some updates to that site plan. Because I know we were also talking about having the passive recreation on the, kind of the upper plateau of the property, and then the more active is down in the lower portion.
Which is basically, D, or C, has a basketball court, well, we can get into that later, but. you know,
Yep.
C is one of the ones that puts the basketball next to the structure.
Okay. Oh, now the music's died down for our, now we just have awkward silence. Okay. So for the council meeting, again, like I said, we'll have that progress report in the presentation. So CJ, I'll email you the PDF so we can pull it up on the projector. Is the projector working?
On the old laptop is, on the brand new laptop it's not, but on the dinosaur it works.
Wow.
Yeah. Don't ask.
Technology, huh?
You gotta love it.
Okay.
The good old Windows 7.
Should we make a recommendation that we have a tech guy come and update everything so it works for you?
Oh, they,
I'll be happy to make that recommendation right now, because
they
it,
have a ticket, that's the last I heard. So that's
we
what
have
they
a
said.
we have a
Supposed to
ticket.
send somebody in Pittsburgh.
Okay. Because this benefits not only this committee, but the planning, the zoning, and council. So if we need to make a recommendation, you know, like I said, hold their feet to the fire a little bit.
Yeah, no, they keep me updated.
Okay. So then I guess that's it for, on my plate, that I wanted to discuss for this evening. Was there anything, additional, like I said, recommendations to council or discussions that we needed to have with council that this committee would like me to bring up Monday night?
I think at some point, and maybe we wait until we get the liaison, if we get a liaison, is what I've noticed over these last couple of years is the flow of information and the absorption of information tends to, there's always a disconnect. We come to certain meetings with the council, very knowledgeable, well-versed, prepared. We're on the 7th page of whatever, and they barely looked at the first page. So we're raring to go to have substantive discussions about this, that, and they haven't even decided yet, well, do we? I think we have to get some sense of, this is never gonna work if we always walk into a council meeting and they haven't even opened the document prior to that agenda item. Now, I know they've got 100 things to do, but this is a complex situation. And just in these one options, you've got probably 6 different to 7 different community organizations that would want to comment on, well, no, I want the ball field. No, I want the basketball. In fact, I want more basketball. So at some point, the council has to say, what do they want? Are they just gonna react to whoever makes the loudest comment, or they have a vision? Anybody on that body have a vision of what they want this to be? I think we have to encourage them. They have to be involved. If they just wait until the meeting to open up and say, oh, we've wasted our time, we're sitting there, and we're gonna come back in 3 weeks, and, or you're gonna give us 17 questions. Well, why didn't you talk to them? Well, where were you when, you know, and then everything just gets pushed out.
But,
And it becomes a very frustrating enterprise. I just want to try to see if we can push them, and this should be through the liaison, but Steve didn't have a heck of a lot of luck. They gotta be engaged.
certain, yeah.
Other than the police station, is this not the biggest thing? I mean, what else is there, other than the minutia of running the town and all of that? I mean, you've got the police station with a boatload of money, which is a necessity. And you've got this that the community has repeatedly said they want to do something with. So it needs to be prioritized at some point by the council to treat us as something other than, okay, okay, well, oh, great, tell us what you're doing. Well, here's what we're doing. You should know what we're doing because we've given it to you 3 months before we came to you. You see what I mean?
Yeah. And I understand that frustration, but they're also looking to us as our committee to make those final recommendations. Say that we've talked with all these groups, and this is what we have prioritized based on what we have heard and throughout the community. So,
Yeah, but I don't have any confidence that they would take that, because they're at the mercy, they're subservient of their voters, which are us and other people, but the rest of the community, but
well,
at some point, they either have to give us that endorsement 100% and say, we'll ask you a couple of questions, but we'll let you make these or they're gonna get more engaged and say, yeah, we're gonna come to one of your meetings and have a joint session, so all we talk about is this for an hour, you know? It's not gonna be you standing in front of them for 20 minutes like we used to do. Have them come here 1 hour, and all we're gonna talk about is plan A, B, C, and D.
and the appropriate time to have that meeting is when we've drilled down a little bit more from just
What
this.
is. Yeah. No, I'm just trying to
No,
give you some ideas.
but I would also like to have faith that they will trust us in our recommendations, because we are a good cross-section of this town. You know, we all represent different groups. We're all involved in different circles throughout town. We all have our own individual expertises with our professional backgrounds. We all have history, one way or the other, whether it be, you know, history that has run our entire lives or history that's been in the past 10 years. So we all have varying perspectives in this committee. So I would hope that the council recognizes that and respects this committee enough to understand that when we make a recommendation, we're not doing that half-heartedly.
I hope so.
And I think all of this stems from having a strong liaison, right? It means that they have somebody invested in our project that they can trust. So, you know, we have to get someone from the council on here who's gonna be more invested in our project than the town council has been to this point.
And as you said, Mr. Najarian, there have been other priorities going on in town, but, you know, this one is now moving forward. So it should be looked at a bit more closely. I do get phone calls from some of the counselors discussing our project. So I like to let them speak during meetings rather than saying, oh, so-and-so said X, Y, and Z. But I have been getting calls that have given us full support in what we're doing. So that gives me hope that we can continue to do what we're doing and move forward accordingly.
Oh, good. That's great. Excellent.
So, because we would certainly hear about it if we were not on the right track. We would certainly be hearing about it not only at our meetings, at the council meetings, in the newspaper, and in letters to the editor of different publications that are around town. So, and then also the various social media groups. We would have
No doubt.
be in the crosshairs, if you will. But anyways, I digress. If there are no other recommendations or discussions with the town council that we feel that we need to have come Monday night, I will remind everybody that we are looking to have a progress meeting with BH+A on August 17th. It's 2 Thursdays from now. I will play it by ear to see what the council's thoughts are for having a joint meeting with the Multi-Generational Advisory Committee, because I think that would certainly help push the conversation that we've been having here tonight, the conversations that we had at our previous meeting. I'm sure other conversations that have been outside with other members of the administration and the council. So I would just ask that everybody look at their calendars just for tonight and kind of see. I know we were aiming for August 17th as a potential joint meeting. I would hate to waste BH+A's time having to be part of that. So if there are alternative dates that we see tonight, looking at people's calendars, if there's dates that I can at least throw out to the council Monday night, so then that way they can come to a consensus.
Let me ask this question. Are we ready for another meeting with Joel on progress until we have your meeting with the council and then another meeting with the Scouters Committee?
I think we keep Joel going.
I
There's,
understand. I'm just concerned that, I know in the past that contractors had so many times they will come and meet with us. I don't want to waste those times when I don't know we're going to be in a position to give them anything new to deal with. That's my
yeah, in our contract with, as far as meetings go, because
Right.
we got ourselves into trouble with the last consultant, they're contracted to have at least one meeting per month with us.
fine. That's it.
We're covered. And I also think there's some flexibility with our current consultant.
But I also think
Last
that.
person. I just don't want to waste his time.
No,
in-
no.
In light of what Bob was just saying, it's, in my opinion, I think we have all the information we need from the seniors as to their desire. And we've heard it 3 times, different phases, what they want within whatever structure. So it would seem to me that the best thing to do now is get the council to either yea or nay the transition from Scouters to Halliwell. If it's yay, then we don't need the meeting, in my opinion. With
Right.
the seniors again, Joel needs to just get in touch with Linda, confirm the parameters of the notes that he took, and then let's let them generate a draft of, okay, this is the way we interpreted the things that you asked for, and this is the size structure that we think would work within the confines of some measure of a budget. Then we get together to look at the draft, not to rehash again. We know we need a commercial kitchen, we know we need this, we know
Sure.
we need that. I think that's been discussed 3 times.
Mhm.
So I would say, we don't need to bring him down whether he's obligated to or not.
No, and
He can do that with her
Yeah.
and that committee via email or via phone
Yep.
or Zoom.
he's planning on having progress to present to us at the 17th meeting, based on our discussions that we had 2 weeks ago, and further information that
You'll get him.
I'll be feeding to him, yep.
And at that point, will the wetlands be updated on these?
It will be loosely updated. It won't be, between now and the end, our 17th meeting, certainly won't be flagged and surveyed. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, it's so exciting. I think if, it would be the impetus to get this thing moving,
Mhm.
if they all agree that it's the smartest thing to do.
Okay. So I'll reach out to the committee and get if there is the need for a joint meeting, get some consensus after Monday night's meeting and go from there.
Can I just bring up one point? I know I keep going back to it. We're not at that point yet, but there was negative feelings about the Y when we talked to Linda, that they weren't going to work with the community. Did anybody else feel that, that's,
Frankly, Bob, I was surprised, same with the comments from Paul.
yeah,
I didn't see anything negative in the comment, and if there was something that may have been miscommunicated or misconstrued, I heard nothing negative. I thought it was very positive.
I remember there being specifically questions about reduced membership rates for
Right,
seniors or
exactly.
town
And
meetings.
there was.
And I
And
don't
there was-
remember what the outcome
And
was.
the answers were given, yes.
Yeah, we have to go back and look.
I guess my only point is, Joel's gonna go ahead and start designing. It's way too early to get the Y involved in that design. But, you know, if they did become part of this program because of the operation of the facility, and that's my big thing, they'll operate the damn thing. We shouldn't wait too long, is all my point.
Mhm.
So,
on that part, the Y also has, learning classrooms at the YMCA. So they would be good, if they're thinking that they're potentially gonna put the pre-K there. I mean, they have a pre-K program
They've got
within them.
all kinds of programs, and they're willing to work with us, as we've heard.
Whatever happened to the grant writer?
That's not on our agenda.
Oh, sorry.
We can't talk about that.
That's not on our agenda.
Yeah, but lastly, the last comment relative to the why, I still don't think, that was just an introductory meeting.
Exactly.
I mean, we never even got past whether or not the town would still have the ability to administrate their own programs. You know, that you're far away from getting a true picture of, now this is what it must be for us to join, meaning them. So I think it was premature to cast a negative light after one meeting. And the only reason I keep the positive attitude is that we still have to grasp the benefit and the monies that we can possibly get from their involvement, which we won't have the slightest chance without. So it's still worthy of
I'm not
consideration.
pushing it right now, but it's something we should be thinking about and not forgetting about.
Mhm.
Because
And
they
you know what,
wanna-
that
they
question
wanna
can
do-
be asked categorically via email, and/or how is it that we get around that, where, a membership is dealt with in a different way? That can be resolved right quickly.
Please. Absolutely.
Okay.
Make your motion adjourn.
Second,
Thank you.
All in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
you catch the last song.